Hey, what's up, everybody? About to get started here.
What up, my man?
What up? How you doing?
Good, brother, good.
Good, good, good.
Chilling at the park, about to blaze. Start my day
Nice.
off right.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
So, tell the audience a little about yourself.
What's up, everybody? My name is Charlie Compuesto. Uh, I'm here in San Diego, kind of grew up here, but I've been traveling around the world for maybe the last 14 years or so, but San Diego's home. I'm in marketing, I'm an artist, musician, do all the good stuff.
What type
Port
of art?
Well, my background is actually in the commercial arts, so illustration, graphic design, typography, that sort of deal. I'm working more with illustration in terms of visual arts, but I'm also a performing artist in the way that I'm an actor. So my agent's up in Portland. I was acting in Hawaii and in Portland until the COVID thing happened. But so now I'm back here in Cali.
Nice, for sure. So, tell me about your podcast.
The podcast that I'm presently running is called Sex and Calamity, and it's I met my co-host through the Flow Research Collective. Um, we never met in person, so you know, which makes things kind of interesting because she has a different world view. My co-host, her name is Ildiko, and she's from Vienna, Austria, but I believe her native roots lies in Hungary, which isn't that far from uh, excuse me, which isn't that far from the war that's happening in Ukraine. So, but the podcast itself is dealing with sensuality, getting back to our humanness in sensuality, sexuality, and how we can work through that and help the world become a better place, save the earth. So we're environmentalists at heart and
Oh, no,
lovers.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an important thing. Did were,
absolutely.
did you mention at the Cannabis Wellness Party that you're also used to be in the military?
Yeah, yeah. So once upon a time, I was a medic in the army. I'm an avid reader, so one of the one of the things that inspired me to be part of the army was Hemingway's book *A Farewell to Arms*, where he was an ambulance driver in World War I. So prior to that, prior to the military, I was involved in street gangs, and all of my buddies were either getting pinched by the cops or getting killed. So it was time for a big change, and and the army was the way out. And through that, I was able to learn life-saving skills and really discover myself as an artist.
Awesome. So, this is Corona. This is Charlie. Uh,
Corona, have we met before?
I
Through
don't
Dane?
have.
No, maybe not.
yeah, she helps me with the LA Cannabis Wellness Party, and she's come to a couple of them, but she wasn't at the one that you were at.
Okay. Well, pleasure meeting you, Corona.
Likewise, so happy to have you on our podcast here.
So Charlie has a podcast called Sex and Calamity.
Hmm.
So I thought that would be a good topic, unless
Collab, huh?
yeah, not
Yeah, yeah.
just sex positive, potentially something along jealousy, um,
Oh,
sexual transmutation,
ah,
anything in that realm.
Absolutely. It's really just getting back to our sensual side. We're animals after all in this on
human
this plane.
nature is definitely animalistic, I'd like to say.
What's that?
I said, human sexual nature is definitely animalistic.
For sure, for sure. And it's healing, you know? I mean, it's just just like cannabis and just like you know, feminine energy, a lot of that has been suppressed over the years. Sexuality has been suppressed over the years by whatever forces. And now there's a really positive movement happening, and we're, you know, we like to stay in front of it and have the hard discussions that people are either unwilling to have or just not aware, you know, just not aware that these conversations are being had. Right? Like
So
how often do we have conversations about sex openly?
Usually, I think it comes to when it comes to a tipping point, right? When someone's had enough of a certain behavior, I feel like a lot of people tend to be passive. And once things reach the ultimate point of like breakthrough, that's when some people have enough kind of guts or ganas to say something, right? The want or the will to say something.
Right, the tipping point. But in term, I feel like, and in this particular context, it usually uh, comes out of some type of breakdown or conflict, right? But why wait for that, right? Why not educate ourselves on the nuances that makes, you know, sex uh, a positive and enjoyable act that is
Mm-hmm.
beneficial for everybody involved. You know,
I think
cultivate beauty.
I think the important thing is consent. Yes, we shouldn't wait till they get to the point, but we need to get better at uh, knowing our audience and starting small with the conversation and letting them consent all the way along the way.
But also, one thing I always kind of bring up is when is the right time, right, to send those ground rules. When you're getting to know someone and you're beginning to be more intimate with them on a physical level, right? When is it appropriate for us to introduce our the norm or the rules within the intimate relationship, right? Because I mean, how are you gonna tell someone, okay, don't poke my behind when you're not even at step one of like, being intimate with one another? So sometimes you do have to wait for certain moments to present themselves to set those boundaries and be like, yo, like, I'm not cool with this because we're at a certain stage, right? Because then sometimes people get turned off, like, yo, I'm not even in your behind yet and you're already like getting there. Like, what's up with the trauma? Or like, are you really just setting boundaries or what is it?
Right. I think I don't know. For me, I feel like whenever sensuality to me begins with feels, right? Who, you know, the feelings, right? So I think whenever a partner or, you know, somebody who's engaging in sex feels like it's necessary to be said, right? I think ultimately everybody um, wants to feel like they're being heard and seen, and I'm not sure, as in my early years of sexual activity, that wasn't always the case. You know, I was just getting out there pounding away, right, without too much regard of my partner's feelings or their desires, until I actively took the steps to, you know, get into the books and to study sex as a science almost, you know.
I remember telling a woman one time that sex is about emotional as filling up my gas tank when I was much younger.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I remember telling a woman once that sex was as emotional as filling up putting gas in my car. I was much younger at that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, where do we get our lessons in sex from? Hollywood, you know.
Mostly,
Yeah.
yeah. We're definitely not getting much out of sex ed in K through 12, and even sometimes past that, right? In college, they don't tell you how to be intimate with someone. You're not really being taught, at least not by Western education.
It's yeah, I mean, you really have to seek it out. I feel they teach my experience in public school sexual education is really about the mechanics, right? The biological aspect, but as far as, you know, really enjoying intimacy, you
And
know,
if body, mind, spirit, right?
yeah, absolutely. You know, when it's not just the physical act of penetration or receiving, um, there's so much mystery to be discovered by everybody, you know, because everybody's experience has a potential of being different, just as different as we are all individually.
Mm.
There's an interesting thing that the science of it, especially when you're speaking to younger children, the science of it can block like the true kundalini feeling. Some of it could be done with like sound healing and lots of different sounds and smells more than explaining it scientifically. Knowing the science behind the scenes is important, but knowing too much science could make you feel like a robot. I'm going to lick this clit right now. Not so sexy.
Yeah, right. The clit's more than just like a button you press over and over again,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And that's true.
That works. That works. I mean, we should have the professional, like the owner of the property explain that.
There's um there's a movie called Captain Fantastic with Viggo Mortensen, and he's real in this movie. He's like off the grid. He raises a family off the grid, and his son turns 18 or becomes of age, and he's off to leave the world, and Vigo's character gives the son um, profound profound advice when it comes to women, and he says something to the effect of, you know, when you go out there and make love, listen, listen to the lady,
Hmm.
right? Nobody told me that shit when I was, you know, when I was starting my sexual, uh, curiosities, when I was satisfying my curiosities, But um, as a more mature man, I do my best to stay present and to listen, and let the lady guide me, you know. But,
That was one thing, like, and it goes to the consent earlier that I was talking about also, with like even in conversations and being able to talk about stuff and slowing down, and the power of pausing,
hmm
saying something and just like pausing and like looking at somebody and being able to read, are they okay with like you to escalate, and figuring out what point it was going to, and every once in a while, even though I don't like to do, oh, I was just joking. Like, okay, I went too far. Oh, I was just joking. We'll get back there in a couple minutes, but right now I was just joking.
But also,
So
putting your
go
ego
ahead.
to the side, putting your ego to the side while you're listening is important, right? Because you don't really know what triggers someone has or what traumas somebody carries. So, if there's a boundary that's being established, like, whoa, hold on, or slow down, being receptive to that and not taking it personal, right? One of the four agreements says
hmm
don't take it personal.
Yes, for
hmm
sure.
Don't take
That's
anything
one.
personally.
That's the one I always forget. Um, so I was giving a ride to a passenger the other day, and I could tell that her family was probably really controlling when she was younger, and lots of things was going on there. And I was building her up, and she said she wanted to try meditation, so I came up with the idea of like leading her through meditation, which I've done several times. And only one other person had said no, and she said no, and she was like a little insecure, so she didn't like say a clear no, but she didn't say a clear yes. So I was sitting there, and I told her, I was like, yeah, you don't have to do this. I mean, I'm driving. I mean, and it's fine to say no. And I was like, it would be wrong for me if you didn't consent to this, to try and force this on you. So I think it's important to be able to read the person, even if they're like you're driving down the street and there's somebody in the back seat, being able to be present and listen to your still small voice and feel like, am I pushing? Is my body tightening up to push an agenda, or is it letting something flow natural that we both can agree on? And how about and Charlie, and how about consent for men? People don't focus on that much.
Yeah, that, I mean, unfortunately, that's true. And again, it comes down to, moral norms, right? We're not really being taught, right? It's only been probably in the last 10 years, if that, that our contemporary society at large is experiencing an awakening. The prior to that, meditation was just like pop, right? Like nouveau science,
Oh, okay, got it.
what's the term?
I thought you were talking about the drink
It's
there first.
yeah, no, no. It was it's just things
Yeah.
only yogis do, or people who practice yoga, which was also like the butt of a lot of jokes, especially in the 80s and 90s. But now, there's valid science behind, um, I guess, wisdom tradition, like meditation, like being in touch with, checking in with oneself, check like we've all, as far as, when I was growing up, we are, you better check yourself or someone's gonna check, that sort of deal, check in. But now, for me, the meaning of checking myself is like, really, like, how am I doing? Am I being? How are the people around me? Are they good? Just that whole general awareness, I think, is gaining momentum, and it's a beautiful thing.
I totally sense that of the times that I've seen you in person, 2 times I've seen you in person, of how you go around the party, really in that element of what you're talking about right there. You're very congruent with that.
To practice, I mean, I fall short just like everybody else, right? And we all get caught up in the moment, which is all very human experience. But for myself to, this is the path I'm on. I'm, until the universe directs me towards a different direction. This is it.
Did you ever read Think and Grow Rich?
I have early on. So after my time in the military, I went back military. Excuse me. I had I was able to do a lot of things. I was able to get my undergrad degree, and after I got out of the military, study the art. Eventually, got into market business, and everybody rather that I know that has gone into has read Think and Grow Rich, right? Napoleon. Excellent book. Everyone should read it at least once.
It's
I'm
funny.
sorry.
Here's one of the things that those business people that read it, they miss out on the 2 best things. I even hear like billionaires that say, "Oh, this is the best part of this book," but the 2 best parts of the book are sexual transmutation, channeling sexual energy, which I don't even know how they were able to get it. I mean, they had to, write it in a 1930s sort of way to be able to get it out there. And also how Napoleon Hill used to have people that weren't even alive, and some people alive, like you would have meetings with them and be talking to them and asking and running ideas by them. So channeling great leaders and great knowledge, and also channeling sexual energy, that is like and I read it, and then there was 20 years gap, and then I read it again, and I missed out the first time around. So I'm the people that I'm talking about, but also I went in there and went again, and I was like, wow, this is powerful. What you are doing and what other people are doing, it's an evolution of there, because the world had to change a little for that to come out there.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Do you have any like exercises that you can share
The
with
world
the?
could.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. I mean, sure, consider the time that it was written, right? I mean, he had conversations with Henry Ford, if I'm not mistaken, right? Uh, Edison and Ford and all that. I mean, that was a whole different time. I mean, people were just, people were, we just started to learn how to fly, right? Electricity, the automobiles. So it was
Breakthroughs in evolution.
a renaissance. It was almost an industrial renaissance for us. And so people that, I mean, were studying what people would consider woo-woo now, right? The occult. They were doing seances. People were traveling from from various parts of the world and going to India and starts. So consider the information that he had might have been even edited to remove more potent stuff,
Oh yeah,
right?
100%.
So
They
so
they
so you have the rich person's version of Think and Grow Rich, and then the commoner's version of Think and Grow Rich, which I probably got the version of the watered
yeah, yeah,
down, you know.
for sure. And a lot of times
So
in those books, it's all about reading between the lines. A lot of times, and that's why I think channeling into the the energy of a Lincoln or the energy of a Maya Angelou or that is so important, but also grounding yourself,
absolutely,
because if you don't ground yourself, you might be trying to create acts that the world's evolved past. You might be in the past too much.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
it's possible. You were asking me about practices. I had a conversation with a gentleman. His name is Hans Kohn. Um, just this morning actually, and he's in Brussels now. And I was sharing with them that growing up, one of the reasons why I got involved in gangs and stuff like that is because I didn't have the positive male role models, right? That I needed. I didn't have uh, your Abraham Lincoln's or any of the masters um, in my sphere. And going into the military, a lot of that was really toxic masculinity. And I say that in a way that where and how I define the two is like, is it destructive or is it constructive? Right? Masculinity and masculine energy to me is positive if it's constructive and uplifting,
If you're
whereas
building,
toxic masculinity is more like it's more like yeah, that would be positive to me, right? Creative, like young energy, yin and young energy,
yeah,
whereas toxic masculinity is the one where you're is destructive and malicious in nature, destructive. And in the military, I mean, we're in the business of destroying. We're in the business of destroying. So it's not. So we do have element. We've all watched that movie, the Tom Cruise one with the frickin' Code Red, and was it a Few Good Men? That one
yeah.
where they're just basically bullying people, bullying soldiers. Um, so yeah, I digress. I'm sorry. Um, so I do practice what Napoleon Hill um, does as well. My mentors, so to speak, don't just explain; they're also found in books. You know,
Yeah, yeah, for
profound.
sure.
Because they
So
have profound thoughts.
I want to go to Corona real quick. Do you want to add anything that we're
Yeah,
talking
Corona,
about?
I
Any
want to know
different?
about you.
I don't know. I don't like the idea of something being toxic, because it generally just classifies people as something you can't turn around, right? Toxic masculinity. Like, how do you turn something toxic into something good? So I think it's mostly about thinking of someone who has more masculine energy, and masculine can build too, right?
I would
Absolutely.
say. I would say the way that people are using that as a trigger that all masculinity is toxic,
Yeah.
and that's what
Yeah.
all of us agree that that's not
And
a good thing to do.
on a
That's not.
cultural level, right? I've like in my culture, I grew up with the machismo, with the man does this, the man does that. Like you have to do certain things for your man. Like I'm the black sheep of the family, right? I'm the one who I don't know if it was God who chose me to be the one who starts changing the trajectory of things, but challenging those norms, challenging those quote unquote toxic languages that we use to categorize men into being something you can't turn back around, right? Because there is a lot of healing that needs to happen because we do carry a lot of generational trauma. And sometimes we're blinded, right? It takes someone to check in with us, to tap us and be like, yo, like, are you okay? Because sometimes we can't be aware of it because it's a blind spot again.
Because we're in
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
Because you're in it, right?
If someone isn't there to shed light on it or to at least kind of focus your energy into that blind spot.
I think it's all about getting it more and getting better at it and evolving into that space. Now, it's not about being perfect, and that's why a lot of these groups frustrate me so much, because they're all about just talking bad about their common enemy, but they're not about stepping up and becoming a better them.
I feel in the context or in the conversation of what's toxic and
Man,
what's not.
feeling. There's no feeling. You're a man. What are you doing feeling? You're a man.
I think it shifts with the times, right? Like, during the times of, early America where slavery was accepted, horrible as it is, people use it. I'm sorry.
What did
No, I'm just saying, like,
past slavery now?
I'm sorry, you broke up. You were breaking up. I couldn't hear you.
say it again, Corona?
I'm just challenging you because you said slavery used to be accepted. So I'm asking, like, have we moved past that? Or are we in a new slave era?
Have we? I will say we're in a new slave era. I strongly feel that capitalism is an extension of slavery. But I was saying back then people threw around the N-word like it was a thing to do, right? Because it was the cultural norm. Whereas now, I mean, it's not, because we know now, hopefully, we know now that word was born of hate, as Maya Angelou would say.
I
So
think, like, now, if you think about it, a lot of things are more politically correct, and people get by with throwing different words in place of, right? We might not be hearing the N-word be used as derogatory, but also, I mean, if you think about it, people who identified or were identified in the past now use it as a positive language, like, oh, my nigga, as like a friend, right? And excuse me for using that
of
term,
endearment.
but like even in yeah,
The term of
but it
endearment,
still
yeah.
happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
It still
It
happens.
does
We still have people
all the time.
throwing around other words, and it
But now,
makes it more acceptable because it's not that strong of a word, or it doesn't carry as much of a strong connotation. But have we really moved past that time? I don't know.
I mean, we haven't. I mean,
I want to.
certainly if you travel through the South, people you still use the N-word, on a daily, and it's crazy to me living it. Somebody that's living in California where it's more diverse, where we where we realize that words have the potential to cause harm. But I was just wanted to address the masculinity. If we come from the place that everything in excess can be toxic, then excessive male energy can be toxic, excessive female energy can be toxic, too much water can be toxic. It's called drowning, right?
Eee.
So, and where that lies shifts depending on culture. Does that, from my observation, it may
So
be different.
and another thing is nobody, and I forget, one of the president's wives said this, that nobody can make you feel insecure without your consent.
Yeah, Roosevelt's.
Wife, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That.
But I'm not so sure. You know, Pat, um, words are the most powerful tools we have, right? And that's why it's so important to choose words carefully. And even though one could say they're not affected by it, but on some level, you know, you probably
Yeah.
are. You know what I mean?
So
You know,
the
like,
term I think it's called cognitive dissonance. And I was telling Corona about this the other day, but I was driving a passenger and all of a sudden I was like blocking somebody and this guy honked at me. And I turned to the passenger, I was like, oh, that's one of my fans. It's like, he's probably trying to stop me for an autograph. So I had the choice. That's what separates us from the other animals, is we have a choice. I had a choice to get mad and get out of my car and beat the shit out of them, or I had the choice to make a joke about it and then all of a sudden just like put some dopamine that I have a fan that's trying to track me down. So also we have the
narrative.
yes, and also we have the chance, and I'm with you 100%, because sometimes it sneaks in there and it hurts. And when it hurts like that, I feel it, and then I use that pain to become a better person. You become more focused. I microdose the darkness.
oh, sorry. There's just like a swarm of bees. I'm here sitting in my car at a park. There's a giant swarm of
That's
bees
because this
just arrived.
there's this conversation. There's like, oh shit, this must be a honeycomb in there. I feel some energy coming off of that.
Yeah.
They want to sit in for real. Come on, kick it.
Oh man, what a treat to have you today. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I'm here every week. Oh, you're talking about him. Oh,
No,
Can't seem to get
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I love.
For coming the last second too.
I think it's important to. I mean, for oneself, for one's own self development, to make it a conscious effort to surround themselves with intellectuals, to surround themselves with people with opposing viewpoints. It's almost like standing in the storm, right? Because you can have conversations with opposing views and still learn and grow, right? So that's an awesome thing. Sounds to me like we're on the same page in a lot of ways. My question is how do we, one of my missions in life is to really, move humanity forward, right? And that's one of the reasons why I engage in environmentalism. I engage in activism. It's one of the reasons why I I'm willing to have conversations that otherwise wouldn't be had, is so that we can, move past where we're at now, because today's we're in, right? There's too much suffering, needless suffering.
Yeah.
How do we
and you
use
said earlier, I think you said it earlier, though, because you said language and words are really powerful, and it starts with conversations like these, right? I identify with many terms, different words.
oh yeah, I mean, Dr. Martin Luther King.
You hear the chimes, Steve?
Yeah, they're where I am.
I'm
you
listening.
You have times where you are too?
I was just saying,
I do.
I as an activist, so a lot of times, if not 24/7, I'm having conversations about how to make the world a better place, right? From having podcasts with Bob Capella, to going to cannabis and wellness parties and organizing those, to being a canvasser, phone banker, unionizing students, You know, it's always about a conversation, and you're gonna get no's, right? You're gonna get people who are gonna close the door on you, who are gonna hang up on you, who are just not willing to deal with that energy. But as much as it sucks, we have to push ourselves to keep going and be those agents of change willingly, and put aside all of those bad feelings that come along with rejection, because it's so easy to get caught up with that.
So I wanted to interject something for a second, because I think we missed something. So we started to hear the chimes once he had asked the question of like, how do we do this? And I adopted something and kind of moved it onto the San Diego State campus, and it was the first thing that Corona and I built together. It's called SDSU Breathing for Peace. So it was taken from a Facebook page called Breathing for Peace. And on that page, the person that founded it, I had ended up putting it in a children's book that I had written, and I aligned it that for students that they have the chimes on campus that go every 15 minutes and randomly. And what I do is I try students a semester that every time they hear the chimes, they think, I'm inhaling peace. As they are inhaling peace, I'm exhaling peace. Rushing to class, don't even stop. I'm inhaling peace, I'm exhaling peace. And it's that reset that we all need. When you're saying, when I gave you a compliment earlier and he was like, well, I'm not always doing that. We all need that reset in some way. And I've hacked my life that I have lots of resets. Because I know that I'm human and I'm flawed, but I'm okay with that. Some people aren't okay with that, but fuck them. So as the reminder is, and it's launched off to, we're doing something in Ukraine with it, for some of the freedom fighters that are getting involved in that, and we're also doing some stuff in the space with police. I'll send that report to you, and I'll link it on here. And it all came together with me letting go and getting out of the way. And I could have gone into my ego that, oh, nobody's getting out of their way as much as I am. But why would I do that? Everybody's doing that.
Yeah, somehow, some way, Steve was able to train me to breathe in peace and exhale peace every time I heard chimes. So now, wherever I am, if I hear it, I'm like,
You trained. You're a trained. Oh my God. No, I applaud you for that practice. I mean, because if you think about it, right, if a person is at peace, if you're at peace, at that moment, by definition, there's just more peace in the world, right?
For sure.
By definition, so you're contributing to that.
I did it for 2 years before I shared it with anybody. I had written the book, but like specifically shared it with anybody. And there was times that I was walking on campus. None of the students wanted to talk to me. A lot of my website was doing real well, but nobody wanted to co-create with me. And I would be walking, ready to give up. Just give up on my purpose, not give up on life. But I was ready to give up on my purpose. And then all of a sudden the chimes would go off. And I would take a nice a breath in, breathe in peace, breathe out peace, breathe in. And all of a sudden I was back. I was like, okay, don't feel like it right now, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going.
I wonder, at one point when you were giving up, did you find your spark, which is me, which is the needle in the haystack?
At what point?
Was willing to be the lone nut with you.
See, I think giving up is, I think giving up is an important thing. I mean, it's okay to give up. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about giving up, and I was like, fire yourself, and then on Monday rehire yourself. Give yourself a break.
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely,
we try to
absolutely.
repress it, and go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go. No, I'm listening. I'm listening.
When we try to repress and let it fester inside of us, it's just like that, like our purpose, just like that sexual energy. We're repressing it, and we're not making it our authentic self. Explain to me in the video in your podcast, the one that you shared with me when you were talking about the guest, sorry, the person that you do the podcast with, when she was saying that your authentic self is in your genitals. What does that mean?
Well,
Oh, that's a
Ildiko,
good one.
yeah, well, Ildiko has a different to her sexual nature than I do. So I think it'd be great
Okay.
to have her on the podcast and explain, because I wouldn't feel comfortable speaking on her behalf. You know.
Okay, got it.
That's a really good phrase. I've never heard that phrase before. Your authentic self is in your genitals?
Well, it's when you see me do the make things happen, let things happen, make things happen,
I
let
mean,
things happen. I also do, for the dancers, I also do that with my butthole, because
well, that's
because your butthole is like one of the most sensitive muscles that you have.
well, think about it. If we're really talking about that, it's root energy, right? Your root chakra. It's
Your root
Yeah.
chakra, yeah, man.
sacral. It's life. It's life energy. It's life force.
And your butt can tell. It can tell when it's air. It can tell. I mean, it's 95% accurate. like which is
Oh
really
yeah,
good.
it's a different
95%
different type
It
of
can tell when it's
intelligence,
air.
right?
It can tell when, yeah, it can tell when it's
Kind of like
solid. It can tell when
it's
it's
all rooted in the same area, right? It's in your gut health, intestinal health.
what if you could train your genitals and your butthole to know, oh, that's somebody I shouldn't date, or that's somebody that I shouldn't be in business with, or that
Well,
person seems like a good person and they have all the resources and everything, but they seem like they're going to be an energy suck and they don't want to actually manifest what we're talking
And
about.
vampires are real, ladies and gentlemen.
absolutely,
Sure.
absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to be said about gut feelings, right? Whether that
For
it's
sure.
your literal gut or your butt, or you're getting a hard on if you get excited for a guy or a girl. I guess a girl could also get
Yeah,
stimulated in different
yeah, but it gets hard too.
firmness.
Yeah, it's the same concept
I
if you
love
think
it.
about it.
For sure. As the Shakira said, your hips don't lie, but I think the original thing was your butthole doesn't lie, but that wouldn't be as a catchy of a song.
No.
What's at the center of the butthole?
Let it speak. Let the butthole speak.
Sure. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our politicians. I don't know about that because most of our politicians are buttholes.
Oh man. I don't know what age
Yeah.
demographic everybody's are all you guys, but get as much, get in there, y'all. Get in office, engage in politics, because that's the only way things are going to change, really. You know what I mean? Become the policy makers, because the policies that have been running the world for the last 40 years in America, aren't working. It's doing its part for now.
I would tweak one thing on that is we got to find different ways of doing that, and it's not the only way.
Well, it served its purpose, right?
If I became president, this is where I stand on this. If I became president of the United States, I would just have Congress, and I've said this a lot of times on this podcast, but I would just have Congress and government employees in Washington, even though they're traveling around the world, they just have to sit in public and whisper "I love you" to strangers that are going by. And when I say whisper it, it's not even like you're not even hearing it. They're just saying.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a practice, but
because who you become after that, you're not apt to like poison people in certain areas. You're not able to do that. So would the policy shift from that? 100%. but we have to, as citizens, have to be more worthy of a better government, and we have to attract the leaders that are more worthy of a better government, not the ones that will take 50,000 to fuck up your family for generations.
Or be the leaders. I mean, why wait? Why wait for somebody? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like show
y'all,
up.
my stomach right now. Stop.
Was that,
What? What? You? What? Your butt fuckering? What?
You're making my stomach churn.
yeah.
Oh, I know. It's a whole. It's
We
a
don't
different
want to be
conversation. But what's that?
I see what I think what we're getting lost in there is we're talking about status, and we're talking about the approval of people saying that, oh, you're a leader. The SDSU, the Police Breathing for Peace, it's a solid program that I started, and I took, well, not all the bullshit. I took 80% out of the bullshit out of there, and it's very solid. And I didn't get some status that people say, oh, you're the one to do this and everything. So we can, whether somebody's 6 years old or somebody's like in a different place, we got to understand that we're leaders in different ways. And so even somebody that's in a fraternity or a sorority, they can go into that group as a leader and change a lot of stuff that's going. And those people are going to go into positions down the future. So it's not necessarily about the politicians. It's also about a grassroots change.
Oh yeah.
It's about organizing yourself while organizing others while creating leaders, and all of that shit is just part of the thing.
So don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. No, you know this, Corona, but Charlie, you assume that the party in Cannabis Wellness Party was a party, but it's a party, as in political party. With
my man, that's one of the 4 agreements.
No, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
That's a good one.
It's both. It's both.
It is. No, I felt that. I mean, there's always potential in any group setting for ideas to be manifested and acted upon. You know, and I think it really depends on intention. Just like when we use different words, like for myself, I grew up like here in the hood, right? So I may throw around the N-word, but as we said, would be more out of a term of endearment rather than you know, from anger or, you know, with the malicious intent. Just like how I hear different girlfriends calling each other sluts or bitches and stuff like that. It's not because I don't think they really think that of each other, but it's just like, that's just the homie, you know? That's my boy. I don't know. I'm still wrestling with that. I'm being reminded constantly by different people. So these terms of endearment that are loaded. So
Yeah, for sure.
So the Cannabis Wellness Party, you know, that the last one we went to, it was really interesting, and I hope we were able to pick this up probably at a different time. But I mean, we had youngsters in there, and we had a Dr. Nick, who is I believe he's in his 70s in that group as well. It was really interesting to hear the dive conversation and to feel energy shifting, you know, throughout the day. So I'd like to go to one with that Corona's running, man.
We're doing one in LA next month.
Yeah, come by. It's Sunday.
You want to up with me?
Yeah, let me know. Oh man, definitely let me know. Because I know it'll be a good time. Be a good time.
For sure.
That it will be.
So I think this is a good time to stop.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We'll pick it up.
Like Jerry Springer, you have a final thought?
I'm gonna shamelessly plug my podcast. There's only a couple episodes out, but the conversation has to be had. So one of my teachers likes to say that we're just the faucets, right? We're not the water. The message is more than us. So go to check it out, Sex and Calamity. Chime in. Let us know what you want to talk about. We'll bring it up. We can invite you over as a guest. Would love to have both of you two as guests, just to pick your brains about the world at large. Man, y'all are in touch.
Sounds good. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thank you very.
Thanks.
I subscribed to to that channel earlier today when I saw your
Yeah,
video. So
and look it up too.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. And
Follow.
let's make the world a better place. I mean, just it's easy. We just have to do. Oh yeah, I wanted to share a quick story. It's really, when John F. Kennedy approached his top scientist and said, "What will it take to get the United States to the moon back home safely?" The scientist replied with 5 words: "The will to do it." We wanted to have a more peaceful world. If we wanted to create a world that's just, all it takes is the will to do it, man. So I'll leave it at that, y'all.
yes, and sex is all about doing it.
In the
I had
butt.
to bring it full. I had to bring it full circle. Have a good one.
Yeah,
Peace.
man. I'll
Aloha.